All right, good evening. So, this is my newest commission. As you can tell, it's some sort of martial art looking like thing. Let me start with this is for a friend of mine that I've known for 30 years, and he's running his own martial arts studio in Australia. We met in Japan when we were both young. Um, so, the name of this carving is called Shomen. It's Shomen. And Shomen in the Japanese language means front or forward. And in this particular instance, Shomen is used in a manner that is essentially a place. And it is the place in any dojo or any martial arts studio, or most rather, where everyone bows to. And in that location, there is a number of different things, usually photos of the instructors or the founder of the art, and a number of other little accessories that show honor and spirit and so on. So his pictures are approximately this size, which I forget in inches, but it's basically 30 by 40 millimeters by the depth is about 9 millimeters, which is about 3.5 inches. So it's a really big carving, and the shipping, I'm afraid, is going to be just horrible for him. But he wants it, and he's been following me for a few years. So let me get to it. So, for the most part, this is a teacher, or at least the practitioner that is doing the throw, and this is the actual person taking the throw, which is falling. So we call this guy a sensei, and we call this guy an uke, but I don't expect anyone to remember that. That said, um, this technique is a kind of joint locking technique, and they were both standing moments ago, and this guy is now falling, so he got locked into that, and he maneuvered himself around to put this together. So um, he's wearing a typical uniform top, the white pajama top that you guys have seen in the Olympics, like judo, and he is as well. He's wearing a specific thing called a hakama, which is basically something that we've nicknamed the skirt. It's meant for instructors or people that are high level skill. So this is kind of like a dress, and it'll be cleared out, and cleaned up as we go along. I'm still currently trying to deal with the depth. So basically, we have this guy, foot, leg, and body. His arm is stretched out. This is to enable him to fall without dying. This is the actual lockup of his left arm, his right arm, and then the rest of his body. So we have that. In the background, there will be a part of this background here, here, and here will be the tatami mats, which are the actual mats that they use to practice on. And you can see here it says kanji. I don't know if any of you know what that means, but it's the characters that are used in the Japanese language. Um, they're known as different things, but they're like the block Chinese letters, but in this case, they're Japanese, and they have a name for them, and those are kanji. So, kanji, basically, this side will say the type of martial art that he studies, in addition to his logo for his studio, and I can explain that a little more later. This kanji here is specific to a gift that was given to him and his dojo, and I'll be putting that kanji in there. So above the mat here will be kind of like a small lake, and back here will be Mount Fuji to represent the martial art having come from Japan. And I guess much of our youth was spent in Japan as well. So maybe at the end, I'll also have a few cherry blossoms in the top area here to accentuate more about what you would see around Mount Fuji or areas of Japan. So that's pretty much the makeup. And now you can tell that I'm trying to dig in and figure it out. One of the challenges I'm having at the moment, which I know I will overcome, is this hand right here is the top of the carving of the 3.5-inch block, and here as well. And so if he's manipulating his right arm, then his head, his left arm, and part of his body will be in front, will be forward of his lock, his technique. So much of this area here will have to be pushed back, but I want to maintain where I know the elbow curves are, the bending of the arm, and also where the arms are. So you can imagine that if this is the right arm of the person taking the technique, then this is also part of that same right arm. For him, his right arm comes up and around, and it joint locks up on the wrist. So a lot of this is quite complicated and hard to just see. So I'm slowly going down as required. So I had just cut a little more depth here. I've got over an inch or so of depth in there. So now I can start cutting the shoulders back again. I'll probably chop the head off a good ½ inch or so, but I got to be careful. I certainly don't want to lose that depth if I don't need it. I mean, if I need it later. So I'll just start, paring off the shoulders again, and then I'll cut deeper on this arm and other areas so that I can bring this further down. I want to keep this intact so that I don't lose my placement, because when I've done these joint locking techniques before, it's just a mishmash of hands and arms, and it's really easy to get lost and cut off something you need. So I'm just going to keep cutting downward on these items here. So at the moment, it's working fine. I won't do any of this kanji stuff until later. It's extremely complicated. I can read the kanji, which is helpful, but and I know which way they go, and I'll explain more about that later. Each stroke I understand, but carving it in is going to be painstakingly difficult. So we'll get to that toward the end, but so far it's working pretty good.